Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me as we take a look at the astrological energies from July 10th until July 17th, as we have some very big transits unfolding over the coming days. And one of the gifts of astrology is that we get a heads up, we understand the cycle that we're in, and we can prepare accordingly for the cosmic weather. The energies have heightened intensity as well as heightened sensitivity. And there's also a strong theme of evolution, transformation, and some big shocking surprises. So we will dive into all of that in today's show. But before we do so, I wanted to give you a heads up that even though I just gave you some foreshadowing about the week, July is a better month to be productive and get things done. In other words, if something's in front of you and by later I mean August is mayhem. August has very inconsistent energy, including Mercury retrograde for most of the whole month. We have some unstable T-squares. We have big energies with the mutable planets, including Jupiter in Gemini squaring Saturn in Pisces, and a whole lot more in August. So if there's things you can get done now in July, you're probably better off doing so. At least you will have less to change, improve, or correct in August, potentially. But just a heads up that July is the better month to move things forward and get things done. And I'll have a separate show for you discussing the energies of August on a Monday podcast episode. So let's look at what we have unfolding here, July 10th through the 17th, starting with July 10th, which is where we see the Sun in Cancer trining Saturn retrograde in Pisces at 19 degrees. This energy provides a stabilizing influence to what you're feeling and sensing because it's happening in the water signs. There could be something that you feel very clear about intuitively. Your knowingness is strengthened. A sense of understanding what you need is also highlighted. This can be a peaceful energy, as that is something that both Cancer and Pisces energy want. It's also a trusting influence where you could just have a lovely exhale and feel good. Ideally, this is a feel good energy. And then the next day, July 11th, Venus in Cancer trines Neptune retrograde in Pisces at 29 degrees. And this reinforces the same feelings, but it tends to be more receptive, more intuitive, and also wants you to connect to the higher picture of your journey. And that is something that allows us to detach, to surrender, and to look at what feels good in the now, which is a final parting gift of Venus in Cancer at 29 degrees. Venus in the very kind, empathetic, sensitive, and feminine energy of Cancer has hopefully connected you with more of what you really need to take care of yourself, to honor your energy on a daily basis, to give yourself that break and that downtime, and also allowed you to tune in to what your heart is really feeling and sensing. It is a softer influence. Both these trines between the Sun in Cancer with Saturn in Pisces and Venus in Cancer with Neptune in Pisces is about being able to let go and not think that you have to control it or overthink it. There is the sense here of things coming together and taking shape in a way that you can't quite see, touch, or even fully understand, but you feel it. So there's heightened intuitive messages, July 10th, July 11th, heightened senses of what you're meant to trust for yourself, as well as how to disconnect from anything that has been too much or overwhelming. Then on July 11th, Venus enters Leo. And this is where the energy changes as Venus saunters into Leo, where she feels stronger, more confident. She has more flair, more color, more desire to be in her power, as well as a stronger sense of self. So here she moves into Leo, where she comes alive with new creative expressions, new things that she wants to do. Venus in Leo is where we feel supported in taking a risk, doing something that sets us apart or allows us to be in a higher amplified expression of our own light. Now, this gets tricky though, because as soon as Venus enters Leo, she then has an opposition to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 1 degree on July 12th. So the next day, July 12th, she opposes Pluto in Aquarius. And this is a difficult energy to experience and be on the receiving end of. But I want to go back actually to when Venus was conjunct Pluto in February of this year. February 16th and 17th, Venus was conjunct Pluto, who had just moved into Aquarius, and they were conjunct at 0 degrees. And there was something that needed to be dismantled, addressed, destroyed. There was something in the collective energy field, which is Aquarius, that had to be assessed in a whole new light, in a whole new way. Pluto destroys and demolishes if it isn't for the best and highest good. And that is something that Pluto is deeply working with through the Aquarius lens. So with that conjunction back in February, there was an initiation that began, an initiation into what Pluto in Aquarius is requiring us each and collectively to transform, especially in terms of how we show up in the world, how we are honoring our authentic self, where we are accessing both our personal and collective power, and what is not in alignment with that. And so Venus conjunct that Pluto in February could also have brought up energies around friendships, groups, connections, what you wanted or what you were planning for the future, because Aquarius is future oriented. It's also fixed air. So it could have been a vision, a dream, something you really were counting on was dismantled and no longer going to work, or at least in the current form or consciousness that it was in. Venus conjunct Pluto in February was a deep dive into a new level of awareness and knowingness, where maybe you had some big realizations about, this is not what I want. This does not support where I'm going in the future. I'm done with this. And part of that Pluto intention is to not only dismantle and demolish, but to kill or permanently change something that is not in alignment with your future self. So that was February, which was really intense. If you'll recall, February had a lot of big energies that required us all to do some very deep, intense work. Now, this week, that Venus is opposing Pluto retrograde in Aquarius and bringing alive new angles, new things to consider through the opposition that could feel like a challenge. And it could feel like a personal challenge, as Venus in Leo is wanting to be stronger, more confident, and more of her own person, but it's being challenged through that Pluto opposition. So this can make it a difficult period for friendships, relationships, the people in your world, if you are on different sides of an issue, of a belief system. You might be surprised at what comes up in conversations, and perhaps realizing that you don't have the same value system or shared perspectives as another. The Venus energy desires pleasure, creativity, things that look good and feel good. She wants to access more of her own internal creative process, especially in Leo, and that could feel stalled or shut down. There could be something that you wanted to get started on and it doesn't get off the ground, it doesn't move. Perhaps there was something you were planning to do and it doesn't come together. Now remember, because this energy is on the other side of what came up strongly in February, you might have a new vantage point on how you've grown, what you've realized, how you've accessed more of your own self-worth and self-value. Venus and Leo can have very strong self-love. And when it comes from the pure heart, it is vibrant and alive, which is different than accessing a sense of self from too much pride or arrogance or an overactive ego. Rather, this Venus and Leo wants you to look at who you are and feel good about that, even as the energy comes up against a collective force. And that's because Pluto in Aquarius is the collective, the group, the audience, people who are gathered together or joined by a common passion, hobby, activity, intention. So as we move towards this weekend, the energy is more intense around Venus in Leo wanting to do something her way and coming up against a powerful challenge or removal. This also is not the best energy for finances. Now, when you look back through the history of astrology, Venus was not initially associated with money, currency, finances, and that's because when you go back thousands of years, Venus was about social relationships, the pleasures of life, beauty and art, and the things that we could enjoy, as well as social bartering. And so Venus and currency is a rather modern new understanding of her energy because of how we now use money and finances to establish our life, to enjoy the best of life, to buy our favorite music and our favorite foods, and to create and to express ourselves, how money is an essential part of our everyday lifestyle. And so when we talk about Venus and finances, it is more of a modern understanding of Venus's influence. And I just wanted to note that because at the heart of Venus, she's searching for things in this world that light her up, that bring her confidence, that give her a sense of life is good and this is what I'm looking to experience and enjoy. But again, that's going to be challenged over Friday and Saturday. You might even feel it on Thursday. So just go easy on yourself or on others. If you can hold off on doing anything that revolves around the Leo and Aquarius themes, it will be worth it. It'll be worth it to wait, perhaps when the energy isn't as intense. I know that isn't always the case, but it's a heads up that Venus-ruled expressions are under great tension. This includes anything you create. It includes beauty, self-confidence, relationships, friendships, money, shopping, prosperity, luxury, abundance. You get the point. It's going to be a time to ideally let the energy pass before moving forward. So basically hold off on making any big purchases or big decisions around connections, friendships, relationships, because with Pluto, there's going to be a sense that it's out of your control anyways. Pluto will remove something that isn't in alignment with what you need or who you are at this time. So there can be a loss in these areas of your life. And for this particular transit, it is a tight orb of 0 and 1 degrees of the fixed signs. You could even do 2 degrees of the fixed signs. So 0, 1, and 2 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. You're feeling this transiting energy the most. And later in July, specifically July 22nd, is when the sun enters Leo and then has this opposition to Pluto as well. So there's things about this month that are clearing house, clearing things out. Big changes are underway, evolutionary changes, up against forces that perhaps feel very powerful and overbearing, because they are. But ultimately, Pluto is where you are designed to see things in a new light, to let it go, to learn from it, and to embark upon a transformational process, even if you've been resisting it. And that's because the fixed signs are used to having a reliable source of energy. And that's what's being dismantled. So there is this understanding that even though it can feel like something you really, really want, you've relied upon, you've consistently had, is ending and being demolished, which it is, the other understanding is Pluto in Aquarius brings in a higher consciousness and brings in the ability to access new ways to create going forward. So it's almost like the sooner you can accept an ending, the sooner you move over certain hurdles that allow you to enter into a new creation process. So that could help with any big transitions you're moving through. And to be totally honest, Pluto transits are difficult. They just are. They change your life permanently. You often feel powerless, and you're looking at, well, what are my choices? What are my options? And it could feel like there aren't many. But part of the Pluto journey is to turn inward and look at, what do I need to transform in myself? What do I need to face? What is a fear here that is coming up front and center that I can't escape, that the universe is requiring me to look at, understand, face, and then have the courage and strength to evolve it? So the beauty here is that you could have some really clear understandings of what you will no longer tolerate in your life, of where you have been in a place of fear or limitation that you want to move past. There could be energies here coming up for you that are churning, which is how Pluto works. The energy churns. It's very unsettled, and that's also why it's so uncomfortable. And there's a churning within you coming from your soul to move past something, to close out a chapter, to understand what is no longer working for you, and to be courageous enough to face it head on, to see it for what it is, and to know that the universe has unlimited potentials for creation, expression, living a life that is suitable for you. There are unlimited ways that you can actually work with the universe here to move the energy forward. So acknowledging the fear is, of course, the first step, but then it's also doing something that shifts the energy and moves it forward, which can be harder for the fixed signs that don't want to change, that resist the incoming energy or the incoming messages, but to the point of their own detriment. And I feel that over the course of July, the universe is bringing in very clear understandings of what your future is not. And that's from these Pluto in Aquarius oppositions. Okay, so we had an opposition to Mercury in Aquarius back on July 2nd, July 3rd. Now we're dealing with Pluto opposing Venus. Then we have Pluto opposing the Sun in Leo. So throughout July, there's things that have to be removed because the universe is saying, this is not where you're going. This is not your future. This is not what is meant to continue, because you're actually on a different track that perhaps your mind, your ego, your sense of self isn't fully connected with. And I think that's part of this gap in the energies. It's interesting because I feel too, like when you look at an opposition between Venus in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius, the gap is, of course, 180 degrees. Like there's a giant canyon, right, in an opposition. And the universe is showing you where there is not a bridge to cross, where something needs to be radically removed. Perhaps it feels like it's torn away from you. You can't get to it. You can't access it. And the universe is saying that's because it's not a part of this new higher trajectory that you're getting in alignment with. And the Leo expressions are resisting it, fighting it. There's even that sense of not connecting to the bigger vision yet. And I was feeling this too as part of our collective mission at this time is for humanity to co-create new potentials and visions in the collective consciousness, and to have some new ways to move forward, new ideals that inspire us, that motivate us. And that's not happening because of all the distractions of what's going on in the 3D, which is where as soon as things come up around politics and everything that is connected to these power structures that don't want to change or evolve, all the energy goes back into the matrix, into these 3D energies, instead of bringing the 5D into the 3D, instead of maintaining strength in where you're at, what you've learned, what you've transformed, and how your energy has been purified. We're meant to bring our higher light, our higher evolved DNA and cells, more of our light bodies, and our deeper energetic activations into the 3D. Not go back into some of these areas and expect them to look different or expect them to evolve. We are the ones changing. We are the ones with the power of evolution at this time. We are the ones who need to approach the energies differently. That's on us to be more evolved, to be open to how to experience energies at a new level from a new perspective. It isn't about waiting for anyone else to change or shift. If we are the awakening population, if we are the ones who understand more of the spiritual dynamics, the energetics at play, the bigger picture even of ascension, what the earth needs now, we are the ones responsible for not only holding that frequency and that energy, but to then bring it into these old, outdated, expiring structures that aren't meant to serve humanity long term. It's on us to be in our power in a whole new way. And there are things that we can stay in. It's like we stay in our own comfort zones or loops about how we deal with these structures instead of returning to the structures from a more evolved place. So we are the ones who need to be in our power in a new way, to not be divided by fear, to not play into the playbook of what is unleashed or what's meant to trigger us, to stay above the fray, to not allow ourselves to be divided, but rather practice wholeness, practice our own cohesion. It's through our collective cohesion, by being in our healed, awakened, empowered state, that we will change the systems. We will change what we allow and participate in on the planet at large. And that's on us. It isn't on anyone who is not on an awakening journey. Can an unawakened leader lead an awakening population? We've got to ask the higher questions. We've got to go beyond the same loops that we're used to every 2 years, every 4 years. We've got to be more expansive in our concepts of unity. And so I feel like looking at these Pluto oppositions in July, we're going to see where we're cracking, we're splitting, we're breaking, we're divisive, which is predictable and expected. But the Pluto in Aquarius energies also want us to move into that higher consciousness of accessing what is the revolution here? What is the rebellion? Where do we choose for the energies to go? And I see that as something that's being formed in the collective consciousness. And as soon as it locks in and strengthens, then this whole new energy opens up and is unleashed. But July is about understanding, wow, this is where we've got work to do, or this is where we're divisive. And I don't want that to continue. I know we can rise above that, but it starts with me. It starts with me, not a person on the screen, not a person in a role or who has a particular title. So there is a very deep level of empowerment here where we're understanding how the individual energetically affects the collective and how that makes a huge difference, but only when we are each able to move into that level of personal awareness. So for all the ways that July is revealing the discrepancies, the divide, and the division, then we're going to have new ways of healing it and working with it, but that's only through our own intention. That's only through our own desire to say, I want us to move past this same old game because we're ready for more. Humanity is ready for the next level. And that is part of our mission at this time on the planet. So as we move through this week, stay aware of the triggers that come up, what is activated, what you're seeing that is divisive, and then notice how it's affecting you internally. Where are you divided? Or where are you feeling the energy? Is it in a particular chakra? Is it in a particular part of your energy field? Because that could then show you as well what you're ready to cohesively heal and bring together. Now, July 15th has big energy because July 15th is where we have two significant transits of the Sun in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries at 23 degrees, and then also Mars conjunct Uranus in Taurus at 26 degrees, also on July 15th. So let's look at each of these individually. Now, the Sun in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries is occurring at 23 degrees, July 15th. This is an opening square, and it's an opening square from when the Sun and Chiron were conjunct back on April 8th during that Aries solar eclipse at 19 degrees. So the Sun was conjunct. You'll recall that the Moon was there too, but we're going to focus on the solar cycle here. So the Sun was conjunct Chiron, and that began a new journey, a new awakening cycle at 19 degrees of Aries. And that was meant to be a fresh start, a new sense of yourself, perhaps something that revealed your healing path, which is Chiron, the wounded healer. What you needed to heal, what you were ready to change or do differently, perhaps summoning more courage or independence, becoming more aware of the truth of who you are, and even having that Chiron energy soften you in some regard. Chiron in Aries unravels the ego or the expiring sense of self that is not really supporting you in that healing journey. One of the catch-22s of Chiron is that you're aware of what needs to be healed, but it doesn't fully heal. And that's why Chiron becomes a great teacher, a great guide, allows you to soften into yourself and to trust what is correct for you, and to get stronger in what you've come to understand about who you are in this lifetime. And so as the Sun in Cancer squares this Chiron in Aries, there's an emotional programming opening up that the Sun in Cancer is highlighting, bringing warmth to, and the square creates the wound reenactment or a trigger, something that maybe even highlights a childhood tenderness, an experience or memory from the past that comes back around. There can be an opening into your inner child and where your inner child is on its healing journey, because that inner child is then seeking comfort, support, and connection to what Chiron in Aries is working through. And because this is an opening square, it relates directly to what eclipse season brought up for you back in April, and how to open up to the emotional journey and what you're really feeling about it. Sun in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries can be heightened sensitivity, letting those tears flow, allowing your inner child to express itself and identify where you came from and whether or not that is now suitable and fits with what you're healing. This square can bring up family matters whether it's your current family, people you live with, your own children, or how you grew up when you were younger with your parents and siblings or whatever your nuclear family might have been. Cancer is the nuclear family, which is people you live with, that you share space with. So this is a square that shows you a potential injury, what needs to be healed, what needs to be addressed to bring you peace of heart. I'm feeling strong heart energy here, where you accept it for yourself. And these are personal energies, which is the case with both Sun in Cancer and Chiron in Aries, where you could feel you want to pull back and need time to process or feel into something. You want to be left alone. You want to do it on your own terms. Now, do keep in mind that the Sun in Cancer is approaching a sextile to Uranus in Taurus at 26 degrees. That will be exact July 18th. So I feel like whatever might come up here, again, July 14th, July 15th, it could feel quite sensitive and tender and be emotional, but it will move through, and it's like you're clearing it off. There's an exfoliation here. There's a sense of, okay, I felt the feels. It was super emo, but I cleansed it and I moved it through. And that is something that the Sun in Cancer wants you to trust in yourself, is that simply feeling what you really feel is all that's necessary. Don't judge yourself. Don't overthink it. Don't insert expectations of what it should be or what it shouldn't be. This is the energy of not having expectations on yourself and just allowing the hurt to arise and move through you. And it's the movement that's your strength. It's the movement that matters. So again, Sun in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries at 23 degrees. If you can focus on moving the energy through, flushing it out, and being very honest with yourself about what's in your heart and what you're really feeling, it's going to move through faster, and you're going to feel like you're arriving on the other side of it with more grace and self-love. And as if that weren't enough energy to contend with, we also have on July 15th, Mars conjunct Uranus in Taurus, now at 26 degrees of Taurus. So this is new territory for Uranus. And 26 degrees is where we find the fixed star Algol, which is sinister, unfortunately, known as the demon star, and is associated with danger, violence, criminal activity, destruction, decapitation, and war. Now, every 2 years, Mars comes through and is conjunct this 26 degree point of Taurus. However, what's more significant is now Uranus is here. And Uranus is at this degree point for the first time in 84 years. And Uranus will work with this degree point until May 2025. So we have Uranus basically awakening these energies of Algol at 26 degrees of Taurus. And then after this, Uranus moves on to 27 degrees of Taurus, obviously, which enters into the energies of the Pleiadian star system. So whatever comes up that is violent, destructive, obsessive, addictive, it becomes healed through the higher spiritual understandings and gifts of the Pleiadian star system. So I did want to mention that because I think it helps to understand the process here and to know that whatever is awakening this week is going to be dealt with into May 2025. So Mars conjunct Uranus is quite big and jarring. It's shocking, it surprises, it's unexpected, things going boom in the night. But you have to look at the fact that Mars is in Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Mars is not as strong in Taurus, where he'll keep things inside. He will be on a steady, true course, won't give up. This is a very determined energy. And then something busts open And here we have Mars in Taurus conjunct Uranus, basically changing into the Hulk, where Mars in Taurus is not going to take it anymore. He's like, I've been calm, I've been patient, I've been taking care of things that are important, I've been responsible, head down, working hard. And then the conjunction to Uranus is unleashing the monster within that's done being cool, calm, and collected. So you might be surprised this week at people who are going off, at people who are being highly reactionary because they've been holding it in. They've been trying to work it through and they can't anymore. Now it's coming out. Now what they're really feeling and what they've been holding is revealed, and it's very surprising potentially. There's also strong instability here, which will show up through not only the Taurus areas of your chart, but because this energy is ruled by Venus, and Venus is under such opposition from Pluto, as we've discussed, the peace and calm is gone, and everything is open or exposed. No more Mr. Nice Guy. This is what I really want, what I really think, what I really desire. Mars can be unexpectedly explosive in Taurus conjunct Uranus. And it is even more heightened working with that fixed star, Algol. So 26 degrees of Taurus in your chart is where change is imminent, and it can even bring up the worst expressions of all the energies involved. The changes that come up might guide you to understand what is truly essential and what is frivolous. You might have new understandings of what you really want and value, what you need. There could be a sense here as well of wanting to break out of any cage you have felt contained within that you don't enjoy, you don't want, you don't like, and you're looking for that escape hatch. That could surprise you, especially if you have planets or points at 26 degrees of the fixed signs. So the fixed signs, yes, 26 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. This is again where the energies are working with you really strongly. And so the fixed signs are undergoing some very big life changes. And that is the case with not only Uranus, but also going back to that Pluto opposing Venus. These are big life changes and endings that are unfolding, permanent changeovers, and you don't know the way forward or what's next. And that is really scary for the fixed signs that want reliability, that want to know, okay, what's the next lily pad that I'm going to? I don't want this lily pad to sink and there not be another one. So there's a lot here around instability, not knowing what to rely on or where to go next, and it's stirring up our very primal fears. But what I always love to offer and invite you towards is your soul's wisdom, your soul's guidance, and your higher self, which knows everything is divine, even when it's chaos and messy and uncertain in the physical world. So we are invited to go higher into more of what is possible going forward, as well as ways to calm our nervous systems, to calm our mind or our anxiety, to work intentionally with any fears or triggers as they arrive, and to have a process to do so. So let's say, for example, you get some jarring news, something is removed, something isn't going the way you needed it to. That is potentially chaotic, very unnerving. Anger is heightened here with this Mars energy. A strong reaction, a strong response comes alive. You need a way to work with the energy physically, emotionally, and spiritually before doing anything that you would regret, right? Because I feel that this energy is asking us to look at how we manage our own spontaneous reactions or responses, how to give ourselves space to run the energy through. Maybe that's doing a 10-minute yoga practice. Maybe that's going for a walk or a run. Maybe that's talking with a friend or doing something where you're moving the energy through very consciously and with honesty, Meaning, if you're pissed, say you're pissed. If you're hurt, express it. If you're angry, understand that that's normal, right? But it's what you do with the anger. Because anger in and of itself is a healthy response, but what do you do with it? Maybe you join a boxing club and enjoy those punches, or punch a pillow, whatever it is, whatever your natal Mars is, your natal Mars could come alive with the energetic ripple effect of what these energies are stirring up. And so it could be a great opportunity to release whatever you've been holding in or holding back. Because again, that Mars in Taurus doesn't want to stir the pot, isn't looking for a fight. Mars in Taurus is more practical, down to earth, patient. And now his patience has been tested. He's taking no more. He is unleashed. And that can work in your favor as a healthy outlet to anything you've just been blindly accepting or allowing and realizing, I don't want this. I'm not going to listen to this. This isn't true for me, whatever that energy is for you. Now, I was looking ahead at what's to come here over the next few years, and this is actually, I believe, the last time that Mars is conjunct Uranus in Taurus. And that's because of an upcoming Mars retrograde that begins in December, and then how Uranus moves on to Gemini next year. So this is actually the last conjunction between Mars and Uranus in Taurus at 26 degrees, no less, and activating more that you're meant to understand about what you really want and what you really need, and perhaps giving you the strength to shake off anything that's been intruding on your value system. Sort of like anyone telling you what you should do or telling you what you should want in your life. Anyone applying their value system to you or telling you how you should live your life. All of that is meant for you to come up and see, is this really true for me? Is this honoring my sovereignty, what I value, what I think is meaningful? Or am I tired of it? Because the energy is, I'm not going to take it anymore. And you might be surprised at what you realize around that theme. Another way to approach this week and the strong energies is to acknowledge that timelines are closing out and ending, including ones in your reality. And you may be guided to a new timeline experience of different energies, new potentials, moving out of a comfort zone or perhaps even assumed experiences that you thought would last as part of your reality. Change is happening very significantly. It's dynamic and it's a normal part of our experience. So again, go higher to your soul and higher self that are cheering you on, that know this is meant to be energy that moves you forward, directs you to a higher timeline filled with new frequencies that support your growth and next steps now. Next week in July is also quite big with the astrology. We have a lot of aspects going on, especially around the second Capricorn full moon. I have a video on YouTube going through that chart. I will be releasing it on my channel shortly, but we are right on time for these changes and for understanding that the Earth's atmosphere is so alive and so dynamic right now, and so are we. So claim that. Stand in your power and strength that you're made to evolve. You're made to recreate new experiences in your life from your evolving nature, and to stay open to how that can show up for you, even if it's quite unexpected, which is a big part of the energy signature this week. Now, as I close out this show, I do have an invitation. I would like to invite you to join me in sending light to the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. They will be kicking off on July 26th and last for 2 weeks, ending on August 11th. The Summer Olympics are unfolding during some very big energies on the planet, including our upcoming Mercury retrograde. So if you feel inclined to send light to not only Paris, France, but to all athletes, all participants, all visitors and spectators, this can be a way that we powerfully influence this collective experience and ensure that it is truly an experience of more unity rather than division. If you'll simply visualize rays of peace, joy, healthy sportsmanship and competition, if you will help me in visualizing this energy beaming to the heart of the city and all those involved, as well as helping to eradicate anything of a lower vibration or intention. So I'm doing this with my third eye. That's where I'm feeling the energy the strongest. But of course, trust what you're feeling and what you're sensing about this. But I thought this would be a great collective experience for us to co-create this intention, as well as to lay some energetic foundation to what a global event can be at this time. And of course, this can be energy that you further disperse and focus on all over the globe. Any particular location, experience, event, or area that you feel called to energetically send higher frequencies to, simply trust that. And if by chance you're feeling the desire to send out that energy intentionally, but you don't know where it's meant to go, simply state in your intention, this energy is a gift for the best and highest good of all. I send this with the most loving of intentions, and I trust that it is being directed in the highest possible way to reach those who are ready to receive it now. And this can be a simple activation and visualization that you do at any time, of course, any time that you are guided to do so. I also wanted to mention before signing off that the in-person event I'm doing in October has expanded, where we have more tickets available as well as more rooms available. And so this is the Shine Your Success Frequency event, October 3rd through the 6th in Boone, North Carolina at the Art of Living Retreat Center. And this is an event where we discuss your astrology chart and your human design chart and how each one is encoded with your success frequency. So this is very valuable if you are doing work on your own, whether you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, you are a leader in a business or a company. Perhaps you are a coach or a guide or whatever it might be, whatever your occupation or professional gifts might be. Rob Thomas and I are directing you into more of your individual frequency, which is incredibly important right now, especially based on where we're going in the collective over the next number of years. So I will put a link to this in-person event below the podcast. It is only in person at this time. There is no live streaming or video experience yet, but it is designed for us to be in aura, for you to connect with others through fractals, for you to learn, understand, and step into more of why this energy is important at this time. Our event in May was an incredible gathering, great success, wonderful people, and really activated people at their core of who they're meant to be in this lifetime and how they're here to be successful. So please check that out. We're so excited. We were able to expand the event to include more people. And if it lines up for you, certainly hope you can join us in that, the first weekend of October, Boone, North Carolina. Thank you so much for joining me for today's show. I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode as we continue to navigate these wild energies as one. You can find all my current astrological programs, courses, and offerings over at mollymccord.online if you would like to continue to dive into even more of your own natal astrology chart. Take good care, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.